mother-in-law for it.
I'd rather have toys for Christmas.
You know,
I got toys and game stick for Christmas. I got a oh hey, it started recording. Welcome to Radio Free Geek. This is the first episode of 2016. This is Robert, and we are all basically down with the flu right now. So if we sound like we're dying, you're not hallucinating. We really are.
So, everybody except for me. I'm Marcus.
Yeah, well, Marcus could be sick, but he could be hiding it really well. You just don't know.
Oh no, come on. No, actually, I don't have anything right now. Some of my coworkers are sick, so maybe eventually I will get something.
Yeah, we live in cities with actual weather, unlike California. So, and what a weather condition for us in Alabama. Just seeing the tornado damage and the flooding. I mean, there was like a tornado that hit in Birmingham over Christmas. It was like, holy shit, kids. And then just driving to Arkansas to see my grandparents and everybody, and seeing the driving through Mississippi and seeing like both sides of the highway with like nothing there because a tornado went through. It's like, holy crap, just and seeing massive floods everywhere. It's like everything we get in the summer we got for Christmas, and it's weird because the past 4 years we've gotten snow in Arkansas. We got just a teeny tiny amount of flooding all over the state.
Oh wow. Yeah, I have a friend that lives in Arkansas, I believe.
Yeah.
Yeah, and she's posted some tornado warnings and stuff.
Yeah, that's a big thing. We my family lives about 45 minutes northeast of Little Rock, so basically any and all kind of weather condition that you hear about, they usually get.
Oh wow.
And it's usually it's an interesting analog for them, because usually what they get, because we're in the same, I guess, like wind channel they are, so like whatever they get, we can wait 3 days and then we'll get the same weather. It just happened a little more quickly this time because the way, El Nino is just screwing up the patterns, and it happened quicker, more quickly this time.
Yeah. Well, hopefully everybody will be safe out there.
Yeah. Birmingham has resumed its normal activity of attempting to be Seattle, as it often does during the winter. It's usually very very rainy and very cold. But it's not as bad as last year. I remember this time last year, like the low was like 12 odd degrees, and my favorite thing that happened was our apartment complex had decided to dig up the water mains for everybody, and during the freezing, which is when you don't want exposed water pipes like ever, and they dug it up, it froze, and the water pipes burst, so it was frozen everywhere, and then there was gushing water. There was gushing water onto our parking lot, and it was freezing too. So just a layer of ice everywhere walking to the car, impromptu ice skating rink. And then I live on a hill too, so it was, if you fall, you're just screwed for about 100 feet.
Well, yeah, I know it's snowing in Washington right now. I have some relatives that live up there in Washington.
Washington State?
Yes. They posted some pictures of the snow and stuff. Jesse, you didn't introduce yourself. What's going on? You okay over there?
Hi, I'm Jesse.
Come on,
Jesse, like Marcus is I'm the most zombie-ish of the group right now.
I'm unfortunately trying to multitask, and
oh no, what are you doing?
All the wrong things, obviously.
Oh yeah, they're making me take this this course. I've been working in Blackboard for close to that. Blackboard's our online thing we use at school. So both Ivy Tech and IPFW use it. And Ivy Tech decided that I needed to show my competency, and so I have to take this test. And
You have to prove your worthiness.
Yeah, I have to prove that I know Blackboard, and I've been using, and they wouldn't waiver me out of it. I was like, you do realize I've been working in Blackboard for, at this point, 5 years. and they're like, no, you still need to take it.
Test or it didn't happen.
So it's stupid stuff like, what does a properly formatted email look like?
Seriously?
Yes.
It's like the basic customer service questions.
Oh my gosh, yeah. Oh, it's so bad.
I think it's funny that a lot of Silicon Valley type companies want to do like the robot interview before a person interview. And before I got hired onto UAB, I was really gunning for a job for an entry level job with Buffer because they have fantastic benefits. Love them as a company. They don't pay for us, so don't get it twisted. But they had this massive application slash interview thing you had to fill out before they even wanted to talk to you like face to face. And one of the things, because you were basically applying to be a glorified customer service rep, was to write out like an email pretending that you were basically talking to a really pissed off customer. And I'm just like filling this massive thing out. And I'm like, are you fucking kidding me right now?
Oh no. Oh.
And
Oh.
and another thing I love too. Has anyone seen the scale forms that everyone has been doing nowadays? Like they're meant to be, pardon me, they're meant to be really free flowing, intuitive forms. Like when you fill it out, you hit enter, you can navigate using the keys. But like they've been using it in all the wrong ways. Like instead of doing like forms and questionnaires, people do it for like email submissions. So it makes the process more cumbersome and more awkward than it's intended to be, because they're using a tool designed for long form answers for short form answers, and what should be just like enter your email and hit enter is like enter your email, hit enter, hit confirm, and then it'll add you to their mailing list. And these are like things that I really want to try and get invites to try and beta to see if they work for my business or for UAB. And I'm just sitting here filling out like 10 of these a day, and I'm like, are you kidding me right now? I'm wasting so much time. I just want to like your page on Facebook and wait for it to like become available. I don't even care. But it's free and it's slick and it's Silicon Valley, so you've got to look slick. So
Right? Oh yeah.
whatever. So everyone's using it. Could always be worse though. It could be like we were saying that I used to work for ITT, and the back administration stuff we did was like a 1993 JavaScript application somebody had wrote as a grad project, and ITT bought it, and they basically decided to not ever update it. So you had this 22, actually shit, probably, yeah, well, yeah, 22. We're not that far in the future yet. You have this ancient software you were using to administer like the entire school, like kind of like grades, conversations with students, just everything. They're like, well, it ain't broke, so we're not gonna fix it. So that's probably whenever I judge experiences, that's the rung that everyone should try to exceed. It's not a high bar, but you'd be amazed at how many people go for that bar and not try to do anything better.
Oh man.
Especially well, you know what I'm talking about, Jesse. Especially the back end, they're like, no one's gonna see it, so no, we're not gonna make it. We're not gonna make it beautiful or intuitive. We're just gonna make it the ugliest, open source crap we can get away with.
uh, True that, man.
But hopefully that's going the way of the dinosaur. So and that's basically all this episode is. I originally wanted to do a 2015 in review episode, and then I kept logging onto Facebook and checking Flipboard in the morning, and basically every article I saw was the best of 2015, the best movies of 2015, the best typeface of 2015. They had the comic book blog I read had the best like letterers of 2015 and colors of 2015, like best of everything. It was so run into the ground. So I decided to switch this episode around and make it more of what we're looking forward to in 2016 versus 2015. I almost said 2015. That's one of those good old year-end things. It's like, well, I don't know what year I'm on anymore, so I'm going to say all of them.
Yeah, it sounds like they had everything covered. Wow.
Yeah, just if you can imagine, especially Kotaku even Kotaku and IO9 were making fun of themselves because I think IO9 mentioned that Gawker Media, or maybe just them, had published like 55 year in review lists within a week. They were like, that's basically all we're writing right now is just lists. Which is not a good thing to do. And just everything is everything went good for the holidays. Wait, that's a total derailment. I'm hopped up on NyQuil right now, so I'm kind of loopy. So apologies in advance.
Right?
I'm talking to myself. um, but yeah, so basically the format of the list is basically whatever we're looking forward to. Could be video games, could be tools, could be whatever it is. I've got some ideas. I'm not sure about you guys, but and we didn't draw straws. So, what are you most looking forward to, Marcus? What's your tops for 2016?
Well, actually, I'm kind of excited about some movies that are going to be coming out in 2016. Mostly Deadpool and Captain America: Civil War.
And did you see the new trailer that came out over Christmas for Deadpool?
For Christmas. No, I didn't see
Or
that.
close to Christmas. It was almost as obnoxious as the first trailer because they had the previews for the previews, and it was a red band trailer yet again. Which for Deadpool, that's to be expected because it's Deadpool. I mean, come on. But I really liked it. Deadpool has probably been one of my favorite X-Men base characters for a long, long time. But it dropped, as well as having Colossus have a little more screen time. It dropped a couple of hints in it that it could be potentially connected to the larger X-Men universe as a whole. There's a shot where he's in a lab getting experimented on to ultimately become Deadpool and get his powers. Where there's a woman with spikes coming out of her back, and someone pointed out that was probably Marrow, who her power was excessive crazy bone growth. She could like break off and throw at people. She's one of the more obscure mutants in the Marvel universe, but more to the point, she was in Weapon X, which Deadpool was too. So here's the hoping that maybe I think if Hugh Jackman was going to make an appearance, we'd know about it. But here's the hoping that maybe Deadpool, if this movie does good, he'll show up in one of Bryan Singer's inevitable future X-Men after Apocalypse.
Yeah, well, they did say something about Hugh Jackman possibly being or making an Apocalypse.
Yeah, that's been a long rumored thing because Deadpool, of course, loves to antagonize Wolverine. There are many, many, many issues where he's just basically egging on Wolverine to fight him for the entire issue and stuff like that. Which is just kind of Deadpool's entire shtick. There's also the little miniseries I have now. It's Deadpool versus Thanos.
Yeah.
So Deadpool is kind of infamous for picking fights with people that he really shouldn't, and Wolverine is chief among them. So I'm really hoping that happens on camera at some point.
Yeah, I know what you mean.
Yeah.
I don't blame Deadpool. I mean, he can't die. So why
Yeah.
should he care?
He's just a crazier version of Wolverine, and he's got katanas instead of claws. But let's be honest, those are a little more awesome. And
Yeah.
it's kind of in kind of the same light as The Force Awakens, kind of redeeming the worst parts of the prequels. Hopefully, Deadpool will make up for the sins of X-Men Origins Wolverine, because let's be honest, that Deadpool was just awful.
Yeah.
Very much awful. And then the concept art from the movie showed an even worse version. It was supposed to be a more dragged out fight, and I'm glad that didn't get filmed.
Actually, I didn't mind that Deadpool. I thought it was pretty cool.
Yeah, it's weird because like
The only thing I remember of Wolverine was the backside of Hugh Jackman, but just saying.
the part where he's someone pointed out, I think, where he's in the bathroom and he accidentally slices the sink in half. It's like an unintentional metaphor for teenage puberty, and I can kind of see that. But yeah, it's interesting. It's interesting with both Wolverine movies because they both have really good promise. Like the Wolverine was just an excellent movie, but they both have like significant issues, like in the end of the movie, like the way the Wolverine ended. It's just like, what the hell happened? But yeah, I agree. I think it was. It's interesting because I both think it was an interesting take on Deadpool, but at the same time, I'm very much excited to see them doing Deadpool right, in air quotes. So
Yeah, you're right about that on Deadpool. I'm kind of interested to see, them do things right also and follow the comic book as much as possible.
yeah.
In the Wolverine, um, he actually went on the social medias and asked the fans
Mm-hmm.
what it is they want to see. So I'm kind of excited about that. They're actually gonna try and follow what the fans want.
Yeah, they've been, especially Ryan Reynolds. He has massive kudos too because he has been a really good steward of listening to the fans and being like, well, this is what they want, so let's put it in there. Because Deadpool is, of course, one of the characters. Of course, he's known for breaking the fourth wall because kind of like the Joker, he's a little nuts. To the extent I love this, and I really hope they incorporate this in the movie too. But yeah, but he's known for doing like recon work on other mutants and enemies by reading their comic books. That's how much he breaks the fourth wall. So even his interaction with the fans can be a storytelling device in and of itself, which I think is fantastic. There's also the photos of him vandalizing the Batman versus Superman ads, spray painting like the Deadpool symbols over Superman and spray paint. And spray painting like I think the Joker face over Batman. It's like all the three posters he did some kind of vandalization on it. There's like a massive poster and he's spray painting it in the photo. But they've been massive about doing that. They had the 12 Days of Deadpool over Christmas where you could get the Deadpool emojis. You could get a little bit of some kind of bonus content every day leading up till Christmas from Deadpool, which I thought was amazing. And just in almost every regard, from promotion to how they wrote it to how they're filming it, how they're interacting now, it's Marvel should really take some hints from Fox for once, and it's gonna be exciting to see how they kind of handle that in the future, as well as hopefully being an amazing movie.
I look forward to seeing it. Deadpool's one of those things that I'm not very familiar with, so I'm coming into this like I completely forgot he was in Wolverine, to be perfectly honest, because like I said, backside. But yeah, so I'm really excited to see that.
Yeah.
You go with the backside again, Jesse.
I agree. I agree with Marcus. One of the movies I'm looking forward to Civil War a lot.
Oh yeah.
The painful way.
Like, painful way.
Yeah, it's gonna be a movie. It's gonna be something that just destroys me, and I know it. And so I probably won't be watching that one.
Are you saying that as somebody who has read the comics or heard the rumors or?
Well, no. It comes from a mostly movie standpoint. I think I've mentioned this before. There's not a whole lot of comic books that I've read, so most of my knowledge of the Marvel Universe is the cinematic universe.
Mm-hmm.
So just the feelings that I have, I love Captain America to death, but I also really like Iron Man too, so this is going to be a harsh movie for me. I'm not looking forward to it, but I am at the same time.
Yeah. And what's going to be, and this movie is kind of like a prequel, well, is a more obvious prequel to Infinity War than most of the other movies. Like Ant-Man, the way it ended, I mean, it obviously set the stage for Civil War, but there's not very much that's really kind of set the wider stage, and this movie is kind of poking towards that too, to the extent that the who are the directors of Civil War? Anyway, they've mentioned that in future movies, Black Panther is basically going to play a massive role in say Infinity War, for better or for worse. And just massive, this is kicking off, I guess, Phase 3 in a lot of ways, which of course will culminate in Infinity War. So it feels like Phase 1 all over again, except obviously the phases are higher, or the stakes are higher, the phases are higher. But just massive. And of course, Spider-Man's going to be in it too. There's going to be, again, it's a continuation of the Avengers, but it's them against themselves, and that's fantastic. Hopefully they'll tell it in a better way than the comics were. They were kind of infamous for not being very well planned out in advance, and the storytelling got a little muddled. But at the same time, Wolverine's not in the movie, but he was in the comics, so I don't know which one I like better.
Yeah, I know what you mean. It's gonna be kind of bummer to not have all the characters that are in the Civil War book. I mean, I don't know much about that book. I haven't read it. But at the same time, I mean, for screen time,
Mm-hmm.
up on the yeah, up on the big screen. I mean,
Oh,
I
definitely.
perfect as far as all the characters that are going to be in this movie.
Yeah, and of course they haven't confirmed anything, but it feels like, especially given the just the scope of everything, you have this massive international Accord, you have the Avengers against themselves. It almost feels like it should be split into two movies. And it was rumored for a while that it was going to be Captain America Civil War and then followed up by Iron Man Civil War. And they've never announced that. Of course, it's not in their current plans, but I kind of wish they'd have done that, because it's going to feel, even if they do it perfectly, I feel like the amount of ground they have to cover, even not really explicitly following the comic books, it just feels like there's a lot of storytelling material. So it's gonna be packed no matter what. But I hope it doesn't feel as rushed as Age of Ultron did in some parts.
Uh, yeah, that's true. Maybe they should have made it in two parts or something. Because yeah, there from what I understand, there's a lot of characters involved, and that probably
And
would
a
have
lot
been.
of reasons behind even the Accords, which were ostensibly in the movie they're being written for in response to Age of Ultron, but every character's got a reason why they're on one side or another, and the exposition is what I'm afraid of. It may be a little glazed over in a lot of the parts.
Uh,
Yeah. But it's still gonna be fantastic. Marvel has a lot of credit in the bank. There's a lot. I mean, they have yet to make a totally awful movie. With the cinematic universe, hopefully Civil War continues that and isn't the first one. And of course that leads into Black Panther. That leads into one of my favorites, which is Captain Marvel. No, Captain Marvel's after Infinity War 1, but she eventually comes up. She eventually happens. Um,
Yeah,
and
it's
it's gonna be great. See more War Machine, more Don Cheadle in that armor is well spent screen time as far as I'm concerned. So hopefully that's not the last we'll see of him either. So it's gonna be exciting. It's gonna be an exciting year for comic book fans.
oh yeah, and Doctor Strange. Don't forget Doctor Strange. I don't know if he's gonna make a cameo in Captain America, but I believe his movie is gonna come out later on in the year.
Yes, and of course they've just released the first promo photos of Benedict Cumberbatch as Doctor Strange. He has probably the most true to comic costumes from the movie. He's got the robes, he's got the magic sigils. He's cast in magic. He's got the beard. He is a younger Doctor Strange, but I think it's going to be a refreshing, intense take on it, because Cumberbatch does not half-ass anything he does, and it's going to be amazing to see somebody who's that intense and that focused on what they do be Doctor Strange. I can't really think about it. Just like Sherlock. I think when you see him on screen, you can't walk out of it thinking there's like a better person to play Stephen Strange. So I think that's going to be fantastic, and of course that will hopefully put to rest the whole there's no magic in the same universe argument, because obviously with Doctor Strange on the scene, that's not quite true anymore.
right.
Um, I think it served a purpose in phase one, so you didn't blow too many minds at once. But obviously that's gone by the wayside, and hopefully that will given Marvel's focus on doing more street level characters on Netflix. One of my favorite characters, which is Niku Minoru in the Runaways. Hopefully, that will eventually pave the way for even them being on the screen, even if it's only on Netflix or on the big screen. I don't know, but I really hope that this paves the way for more magical characters to show up. Obviously, not Juggernaut because he's in the X-Men, but everyone else.
Well, that'd be great, if Netflix starts gradually bringing in more and more characters. You
Yeah.
know, I mean, what if these comic book characters start dying out in the movie theater?
Mm-hmm.
At least they'll have that other area to go in, which would be Netflix.
Yeah, and I think that would be an interesting way to do it. Kind of like they were talking, kind of, and that may be what they're kind of seeing, kind of testing the waters with Daredevil, Jessica Jones, and the Avengers, which by the way are both been amazing shows. Daredevil and Jessica Jones. Season 2 of Daredevil is this year, but eventually this will culminate in the Defenders, which is Netflix. I don't think it's a TV season, but I think it's a mini series that brings them together in a very Avengers like situation, although scaled to their level because they're more small town type heroes. But that could be Netflix and Marvel kind of testing the waters as kind of a failsafe. You know, eventually people will get tired, especially with DC entering the scene next year with Batman versus Superman, Dawn of Justice, and all that it entails. And I think Suicide Squad is coming out this year too, isn't it?
Yes.
Yes, with both of those hitting the scene, and then Star Wars, and then you have Image Comics. You have a lot of the independent comics making their own movies, making their own shows. People will get eventually tired of seeing it. It's just kind of an inevitability. But and this could be maybe Marvel's way of having a plan B. Like maybe the Avengers come in for miniseries or TV shows instead of movies. And so it'd be interesting to see at the end of Infinity War and phase 3 or 4, whatever phase that is, kind of what that entails for superhero movies in the future, because there will be, I think there will be kind of a fatigue with it, because there is such thing as too much of a good thing, unfortunately, and hopefully that bubble won't burst soon, because everything that's coming looks amazing, and hopefully it will be for a long time.
Oh yeah, that's true. You're right about that.
As long as M. Night Shyamalan doesn't make any DC or Marvel movies, I think people will still go to it. I mean, Airbender was a good show, but it was a terrible movie.
Oh my gosh, it was so bad. Look, I think I mentioned before the only movie that inspired as much nausea as Airbender did
Tired as
was
much nausea. I like
was
that.
Aragon. That was
Oh
the
yeah,
one that just broke my heart.
and Dragon Ball Evolution. Let's not forget.
Oh yeah, that's right. I that one had a redeeming quality.
Goku was not supposed to be a white guy. I'm sorry, guys. That's the lesser of the sins.
At least they got a Yumi Hamasaki to be the ending song. I
Mhm.
mean, at least they didn't pick like Selena Gomez or to do like this J-pop song. At least they
Oh
got a
yeah.
legitimate J-pop singer to do the
At
ending
least they
song.
got the ending credit music culturally correct.
Yes.
Oh,
Now they could have just done that for the whole
give them a
movie.
D minus for effort. Yeah, as long as the guys who produce those movies stay far away from DC Marvel's current slew of things, I think they're going to be around for a long time. But my bigger fear is Star Wars. More Star Wars is good Star Wars. Rogue One with the excellent Gareth Edwards is coming out in December. Um, will hopefully shed some light on some of the mysteries from Force Awakens. If nothing else, will be damn good backstory for some of the events from the original trilogy.
Oh yes, I can't wait for Rogue One.
I mean, you have that excellent concept art that they unveiled. What was it, 2 months ago? Just excellent stuff. We've heard nothing about it since then.
Yeah.
But just like Force Awakens, hopefully hopefully that'll ultimately serve the movie well, and just build anticipation. More Star Wars at this point is good Star Wars, especially going on the heels of Force Awakens, which is just this juggernaut of a movie.
Oh yeah.
Except in Japan, that's a whole other story.
Hey, Robert or Jesse. Hey, do either of you know if Rogue One is gonna be um before A New Hope, or is it gonna be before
It's definitely before A New Hope because the
Mhm.
idea is Rogue One is how they get the plans for the Death Star.
Yeah.
That's what I thought. Okay.
Now,
Yeah.
some of the rumor mills started inserting a 2 after the Death Star. So, um, but that's the one that's a little more hard set, because Mon Mothma does have that throwaway line that many Bothans gave their lives for that story.
Yeah.
It's a complete mystery how they got the original plans in New Hope. It's assumed some rebels got it somewhere, or maybe that's what Leia was doing. We don't really know. And Rogue One is going to be the answer to that. And Gareth Edwards is excellent for that. He did Godzilla. He did this excellent movie called Monsters, where you don't really see anything. He's a very less is more guy. So even when he's showing you answers, I feel like he's going to raise more questions than he actually answers, which hopefully will build some more lore and get some more movies and get some more interest, and just build the world more than, in the same way that Rebels is building the world before A New Hope. Hopefully this will shed some more light about the immediate events before that. So I think it would be cool if they did it like the two Thing movies, where the prequel they made in 2011 ended with the same footage from the beginning of the 1985 movie with John Carpenter. Like, wouldn't it be cool if the end of Rogue One was the blockade runner and the Star Destroyer from the beginning of A New Hope? That
Absolutely.
would just be fantastic. It might be a little cheesy. It might be a little high in the cheese factor as far as prequels go, but I think that would just be cool because that's exactly what it explains.
Yeah, that would be cool for the ending scene where, yeah, but you're right, where the Star Destroyer comes up behind the the blockade
Mm-hmm.
rebel ship. That would be neat.
I think that would be fantastic. Of course, we've seen nothing about it. Nothing about it. And I just cannot wait for a trailer. I was hoping. I was part of that group that was really hoping that the rumor that the trailer for Rogue One would have been attached to Force Awakens was going to be there. Unfortunately, that didn't happen. But I think Marvel or Disney may do it like they did with Age of Ultron, Force Awakens. I think the official trailer, the official first trailer for Rogue One, is going to be on Civil War because that kind of coincides with the timeline for Age of Ultron and Rogue One when they or with Force Awakens when they showed the first trailer before Age of Ultron. So that's going to be interesting, and then it would be really cool to see Episode 8's trailer on Rogue One because it comes out in May. You only have to wait about 5 or 6 months after Rogue One to get your next Star Wars fix.
Right.
So it's going to work. It's going to work out fantastically if they keep that rhythm going.
Did you see that teaser trailer that I posted?
Yes. Oh gosh.
I know. What a teaser.
I'm looking forward to that a lot. Of course, I'm looking forward to 8 more.
Of
But
course.
but
But it's Ryan Johnson, so
Where did you get 8 from?
no, I can't. I can't poop on Ryan Johnson too much. He did Looper, and he's not known for making like very straightforward movies. So Episode 8, and everyone has said this. Episode 8 is going to be a trip of a movie, but it's going to be a good trip. I think he always makes a well crafted movie.
Yeah, I saw Looper. That was an okay movie. It's kind of confusing, but it was okay.
Yeah, time travel movies are always weird, even at the best. I mean, look at 12 Monkeys and Primer and those movies. Terminator, my God. Even the best time travel movies will make you go crazy if you try to explain. I mean, look at Doctor Who. You can't explain that without saying like a damn
what
movie.
was it? J.K. Rowling had always stated that the worst thing she ever did was introduce the idea of time travel in book 3. She said if you could take one thing back of the
Mhm.
Harry Potter lore, it would be eradicating the time turners.
Yeah.
It just opened way too many plot holes.
It did, and it also raised a very valid point in some of it. Like you don't, and I don't even think it was the time turner per se, but they didn't really define the rules very well. And that was something Timothy Zahn talked about a lot at Dragon Con. Was that when you introduce magic, you have to introduce rules to it. The only way, and he actually cited Harry Potter in this, was he mentioned that he was amazed that there were so many things in the universe. You see the Goblet of Fire, the Sorting Hat, the Time Turner, that they don't explain. And what that says to him is that there are ancient relics. That these are things that they don't explain because they don't know how they work. Like they know they have a function and they're doing what they think the function is, but they really don't understand it. And that's why no one explains the rules because they honestly don't know. And he said, as far as a storytelling device, you don't want too many of those.
Right. Yeah, and she does do a good job. One of the things I do enjoy about the Harry Potter books is she does a really good job of explaining the physics of the magic.
Yes.
And whenever somebody tries to, I guess, trash it, they usually cite movie references,
Hmm.
which irritates
Which,
me.
of course, glaze over a lot of the book,
Oh my
a
god!
lot of the
And
exposition.
they're like, "Well, in episode 3, that guy was not using magic," and I'm like, "Ugh, that doesn't happen in
Remember
the
that guy
book."
was turning the spoon without a wand?
Yeah.
It's like no, just because that's in Prisoner of Azkaban in the movie doesn't mean it was ever in the book.
Exactly. But yeah, but I do remember her saying that. I remember
Hmm.
her mentioning that if she could take anything back, she'd probably take the time turner.
Well, she could always pull Lucas and just re-release it.
Well, you really can't blame her for using the time travel. I mean, it was used before her, you know? And I mean, look at the Star Trek The Voyage Home, how they
Hmm. Hmm.
when they went back in time.
Well, look at J.J. Abrams' Star Trek. I mean, that entire thing was a time travel
Yeah,
shenanigan.
that's true.
Days of Future Past was time travel shenanigans. When it's done well, it's forgivable. But if you don't, and I think that was Looper's problem was they kind of hand waved a little. They kind of hand waved certain key parts of the movie, and you're just like, why?
Well, yeah, you're right about that. That's what I said when after Loopers was done. I mean, why
Yeah.
did that?
I think Ryan Johnson, to his credit, I think he Scott in a lot of ways. I think he is only as strong as the script he's given, and hopefully he does not. And of course he has. I think Kazan came in as a consultant on episode 8. Of course, they do have the oversight with Kathleen Kennedy and Disney. They have to make sure it's not just a pile of hot garbage. So hopefully they didn't make it. Hopefully they didn't make the mistake of just letting them write whatever and going with it. That would be the worst possible thing you can do with it. Ryan Johnson did write Looper. But then you have Luc Besson, who did Fifth Element and La Femme Nikita and The Professional, which were all amazing movies, and he co-wrote those. But he also did some god awful movies. So you can't hit a home run every time. But
definitely.
you do have the editorial oversight of the power of Lucasfilm and Disney. So hopefully Johnson doesn't go completely off the rails. But his directing style is always a little strange. So it's going to be a trip of a movie, but I think because it's Star Wars, it's going to be an awesome fun trip. And then of course Colin Trevorrow is doing episode 9, who did Jurassic World and Safety Not Guaranteed, who is possibly even stranger than Johnson. So episode 8 and 9 are Abrams and Force Awakens were the safe bets for the movie. So it makes you wonder what those are going to be, and those are going to be great. Looking farther out in the future, those are going to be just amazing things. One of the things I'm not looking forward to this year are more games published by EA because they have the exclusive license for Star Wars games now. And I was really looking forward to like Battlefront was a guaranteed home run for anybody who published it, and EA had to go and turn it into an EA product. They neutered the story. They neutered how you had to play. They basically you have to wind up paying $120 to get most of the game. Even then, it's not a whole lot of game. So I'm not looking forward to any future releases under the EA banner, which unfortunately looks like the indefinite future for LucasArts games.
Oh wow!
I don't think they have one in the works for 2016, but not looking forward to it no matter what year it comes out.
Yeah. Well, I'm gonna be trying out the new Battlefront pretty soon.
It's gorgeously executed. I haven't played it, but I saw Angry Joe's rant and a few other reviews about it. It's a gorgeously produced game. DICE did everything they could. They were explaining the technology, how they scanned and rendered everything beautifully, accurately from the actual prop and the Lucasfilm archives. It's a beautifully made game, but then EA had to go and put it through their EA marketing meat grinder.
Exactly.
It's like a case study of what both to do and not to do. So.
Oh my gosh, that angers me so much. Like that's just like I still have people trying to get me onto the Sims 4 bandwagon.
Oh God, Sims
4. And I'm like, no, I'm just EA really didn't give anything new to the Sims. Yeah, things look prettier, but I mean, they basically just said, okay, now everything you spent the last 5 years spending money on is useless now. And
20 expansions later, we want you to buy 20 more expansions for a new game.
Exactly. It still makes me so incredibly angry. And then the Sim City thing just aggravated me to no end. Like
the constant online requirement, yeah.
Oh my gosh, I refused to buy it until I could have a normal, not online, just out of principle. I mean, Sim City was never an online game. And it's cool to have it connect online, but it completely defeated the purpose of everything by putting it online. I was so angry.
Yeah, EA's constant DLC chopping up of games kind of reminds me of how Bungie and Activision have handled Destiny so far, and maybe I'm a little salty because because the actual game that I pre-ordered didn't really get released until 2015 with the Taken King. Um, and now they're adding microtransactions, which to be fair are for emotes and things like that, and a level boost if you're too lazy to play the game when you first buy it. You can start out at level 20 and not play the first half of the game you just bought. But it feels like a really bad precedent when you can kind of see the cogs of the marketing machine kind of turning with every transaction. It's like, yes, we'll take your money now. You have more of it. We know. We'll wait. You can give us all of it.
I'm so glad I didn't waste my money on Sims 4. I have Sims 3 and a couple of expansions, but I haven't played them yet. But
Sims 3 was beautiful and amazing. It was probably it was the perfect evolution of Sims, and then like Jesse said, Sims 4 was a graphical update. Even though there's really not much more realism you can add to the Sims, they're meant to be a little cartoony. But like I said, you could see the cogs of the marketing machine turning.
Yeah.
That's never pardon me. That's never a good thing to see with a developer.
The most impressive thing with The Sims 4 is really what they did with the AI, with the people,
Hmm.
and some of
You can
how
interact with death more.
yeah, and how to build the people. But really, I mean, boils down to the meat and bones of the game for many people is being able to create worlds, and that's what
Hmm.
got
Hmm.
monetized. Was if you wanted a particular style, or if you wanted that's extra stuff you have to buy.
Yeah.
There's little to none. At least with Sims 3, they had the create a style, which was amazing.
Hmm.
And they very, you could say marketing wise, smartly took it out of the Sims 4.
Hmm.
So you are stuck with only 5 versions of a telephone, and hopefully that matches the table you want to put it on.
Yeah,
So
and things like that. When it's and it's when I think of marketing and transactions, I always think of Fallout Shelter, where you could buy Vault-Tec lunchboxes and get characters and guns and outfits and shit, Mr. Handy Robots, that may or may not make your life easier in Fallout Shelter, but they're not required. Um, and that to me defines a good game. Defines good game marketing. Like if it's optional and you can get it, fine. But when you're like, no, 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 you have to give us this money before you do it, before you do anything in the game. That's me. It's the reason I didn't play World of Warcraft when it first happened, right? I didn't like the idea of paying $20 to $30 for the game and then paying 15 extra a month to play the game, to play this endless game. Um, I don't like that. Um,
you
and,
know what?
unfortunately, no one cares in the marketing department.
Right. The creators of Sims should just concentrate on making better expansions for 3 and 4
Hmm.
instead of don't make 5, 6, 7, 8, and
yep.
so on. Make better expansions.
Well,
And
three I think has just like a lot of PC games. I think three has gotten a lot of love from the modding community, and it's kind of taken on a life of its own after EA has ended support for it. Hopefully four will continue to do the same thing as well.
Yeah.
right, right.
Yeah, because
Uh,
that's what really shows the love for the game. Is how many people are willing to hack into it and make it better.
oh yeah, and all the wonderful.
modding is a beautiful
Yeah.
thing.
Yeah. No, yeah. The mod community was just absolutely phenomenal. And EA tried to say that they were going to encourage that for Sims 4, but it really doesn't seem like it improved very much, I guess you could say.
EA
Especially,
support for anything is always in quotes.
Well, if EA would make things better, then maybe
Hmm. Hmm.
people wouldn't have to mod anything.
Yeah. Well, modding is still a beautiful thing. Bethesda has always been a victim of modding. But the things that people do are things that make me jealous of having bought Fallout 4 on PS4. When I see somebody on PC who's running around who's modded the game to where they have a Deathclaw for a companion instead of Codsworth, instead of a robot butler like I always use. or Nick Valentine, the cyborg detective, when they have a freaking dragon-like chameleon, mutated chameleon for a partner because they hacked some source code. That makes me infinitely more jealous when I realize I can't do that on PS4. Like, there's no way for me to actually do it. So it's that's probably the biggest plus on for PC gaming besides being able to build your own machine and kind of make your own rules with how you showcase things is being able to bend the rules. It's like the Matrix, right? You can bend and break the rules to your will. You can break the game and then erase and reinstall it and start over, but you can experiment with it to infinity.
Right.
Monster Factory, YouTube, that's all they do. They just mod the game while they're playing until they eventually break the game. Like, that's the goal of every episode. We're going to do this until it breaks. And it's fantastic to see what they can accomplish until they do that, which which is one of the things I'm really looking forward to this year is like we were talking before we started broadcasting. I'm a big fan of Twitch. I'm a big fan of the potential of Twitch to do more than just talk about games. Like, I think you can break it down and educate people and spread things out. Spread things out. I'm still loopy. I'm sorry. You can break down. You basically, what I envision Twitch being is more of an entertainment venue than just watching somebody play a video game. Like, that to me is boring. I say that while I watch Game Grumps while I'm podcasting. Um, I'm a hypocrite. I'm proud of it. But the potential for it is so much higher with what you can do, and people haven't really experimented with it or tapped into it. I know that they have Bob Ross videos on there, but that shouldn't be the height of what Twitch can do. And Geek and Sundry, and a lot of places have done really good. They've been live streaming board game tournaments, that kind of thing. I'm going to PAX at the end of January to basically hang out with Twitch and Penny Arcade Expo and just talk about ways to push Twitch farther than what's currently being used. I think that's pretty exciting. It may not be a explicitly within 2016 thing, but I think Twitch as a service and as a venue, as an entertainment venue, is going to exponentially explode outside of people just live streaming video games over the next year, which is pretty fantastic.
Sorry.
As well as pardon me, I'm going to do some editing, as well as virtual reality. I think that's great. This year I've gotten promotional headsets for Google Cardboard from everybody. I got one from SCAD. I got one from Naomi Campbell doing quarterly. I got one from a Birchbox box that I got, and basically it's for anybody who's not seen Google Cardboard. It's these visors you fold up, and it's kind of an open source response to things like the Oculus Rift and Samsung VR, which is powered by Oculus, but they don't call it Oculus. I don't know what the hell's going on now. But basically, you put your phone in it and you open an app, and it's a virtual reality experience. You can plug headphones in. They have a button so you can interact with the volume control, so you have a limited amount of interactivity with it. But what it becomes ultimately is an interactive movie. You can look around with it like you're looking around a room, and the camera will pan with you because they filmed it with 360-degree cameras, so it spins. It can detect where you are using your phone's gyrometer and barometer. It can detect where you're looking. And you can interact with it. Target had a really cool one for Halloween where you could explore a haunted house, and of course it was all shit you could buy at Target, but it was an interactive movie they made, and people have done interactive horror movies. People have done interactive Galaxy Quest Spaceball type sci-fi comedies. Just all kinds of things, and then of course Oculus is going to be released pretty soon. Samsung VR is going to be released pretty soon. Microsoft HoloLens is going to come out at some point in time. They have the developer kits coming out. But I think 2016 is going to be a year when virtual reality kind of takes the forefront in a less awkward way than it tried to in the 90s. Less TV shows about VR, more VR TV shows. I think 2016 is going to be the year we start kind of seeing that come to the forefront. It's going to be fantastic.
I'm sorry.
Yeah, I know how you
Trying
feel.
not to die over here. I'm sorry.
Yeah, I know exactly how you feel. Um,
Well, that'd be interesting to see what Oculus is going to come out with and all this future virtual reality stuff. I really like the idea, um, and I'm really anticipating and waiting to see what they're going to do and what's going to come out with that. I like that.
Yeah, exactly. And there's been so much you can see there. There's a lot of Let's Players on YouTube who are starting to play the Steam. Of course, Steam nowadays you can pay a slight fee and get the green light where you can play pre-release versions of games. And there's been a really significant amount of virtual reality games that have come out for that. There's a couple of their really good horror games, and they look kind of like you remember back in the 90s when like PlayStation was a big thing and like everything was polygon and pixelated and kind of strange, but it was awesome and realistic, and it was the most immersive video game you could play at the time. Like it feels like virtual reality is like that in a lot of ways because you see the games and you see they're kind of pixelated. They're not very, they're powered by a phone or whatever, although Oculus is plugged into a computer, so it's probably the most probably gonna be the most HD capable one. But like Samsung VR is powered by your phone, but they're kind of polygon and pixelated, but the potential is there, and maybe it's just a pre-release game, so I'm judging too harshly, but the potential is there, and it's pretty cool to already see some of that potential in use, and it makes the actual finished product pretty damn exciting.
Yeah.
And just it's become so much easier to do that and also do video work. So one of the other things I'm looking forward to this year is GoPros, just tiny cameras, and I always thought of those as being kind of you see the people who attach them to skateboards or attach them to helmets and just wear them all the time to document whatever kind of sport they're doing. I've always thought about GoPros as being that, and then Grant Imahara, or not Grant Imahara, Tori Belleci was on Cool Tools, and he was talking about GoPros, and he was saying that used to if you had to do a shoot for MythBusters, you had to bring out these giant cameras, lug them, set them tripods, have this giant amount of time dedicated to say a photo shoot, and nowadays you can get this GoPro, which is the size of like a pack of cigarettes or smaller, and you can hook them up to tripods. You can attach them to drones and have immediate aerial footage. You don't need to have a helicopter like in the olden days, 20 minutes ago, and you get all of that, and you get this tiny camera that's easy to pack. You can put it in your back pocket and jump on an airplane if you want to, and you get that for $250 basically. So I'm really wanting to. When I start doing the creative video stuff, I really want to buy a couple of GoPros and some lavalier mics and practice with doing on-location shoots with these tiny cameras that you can basically take anywhere. You can put them in waterproof casings. You can attach them to drones. Just do whatever you want to, and just kind of experiment with that over the next year. To do a little bit more, there's been a lot of people who have been attaching them in these ball configurations to make the 360-degree high definition cameras that they use a lot for shooting the immersive video I was just talking about, and that's been a big that's been a big thing. But for me, that's going to be a big part of next year. Is kind of experimenting with that, getting back into the art school experimental videography that I used to do so much when I was at UNA.
Have you seen the video of the squirrel who steals it?
No, I haven't. I saw the
Oh,
one where somebody had a GoPro on a drone and he was flying it in Africa or somewhere, and a monkey smacks it out from in front of him with a tree branch. And possibly the scariest one I've seen was someone who had a drone, and for some reason he flew it into a rattlesnake nest, and the snakes knocked it into the nest and started wrapping it up like they were going to eat it. And dude comes in with like a hockey stick and just scoops the drone and the camera out of this snake nest. And there's like 200 rattlesnakes just chilling
oh
out. And he's just
no.
walking right up to him with a hockey stick. He's like, gotta get my camera back. And I'm sitting here watching this. And I'm like, dude, it's only like $300 right there. Like that's not worth the $10,000 worth of antivenom you'll need to get bit by one of those snakes.
Oh, yeah.
So it was and of course with the new FAA regulation for getting drone certification, hopefully people are a little more sensible with what they do with their drones. I've got a neighbor who keeps flying his camera drone around people's cars. I think he's secretly casing them all, and he's got footage. But yeah, I'm hopefully I won't be that obnoxious when I play with them. Um,
No, really, there's been people that have been careless with their drone.
mhm.
No,
Well, you had the dude who the ski competition that a couple weeks ago. They had a reporter who was getting aerial footage of the skiers, and it of course when they lose power they just drop. They're not like airplanes and they keep gliding. And his drone lost power when the dude skied under him, and he almost dropped this drone straight on this guy. Um, and that's the kind of stuff. Because because MythBusters proved that you can't really get hurt with the rotor blades. If it flies into you, you're going to be hurt by the actual drone more than the propellers. But if you have a camera rig one, those things weigh a decent 80 pounds, and falling those in your those falling in your head is going to be a fair bit of head trauma.
no,
So
yeah,
I can definitely understand why they want certification to fly those, because it's definitely a dangerous hobby.
yeah, yeah, that's true.
But just what Tori Belleci was saying, you can spend $300 and get these, and he said that if you wanted aerial footage when he started working at MythBusters, you had to hire a helicopter crew, you had to check weather, you had to do all of these things. It was massively expensive, massive time consuming, and nowadays you just you pull a drone out of your truck, put a GoPro on it, and there you go. 20 minutes later, you got all the footage you need for a show.
Right, right.
And you see people doing that in cities too. They do the San Francisco has been good. They do the San Francisco flyover drone tours. Just people have been experimenting with that in such a way. But just like with VR, I think drone footage is an area that people are playing with because it's a fascination. But I think 2016 is going to be the year where people take it a little more seriously, and you start seeing people start competing and making really well edited and well produced videos from these hobbyist drones and cameras that they've been using for years.
Right, and it is a good idea. It'd be exciting to see the angles that they can get, and just the whole coverage of it.
Oh, definitely, definitely. And even if you abide by the FAA regulations they're proposing, where you have to maintain line of sight and everything with the camera, which is wise. You can still, if you plan it out and plan the angles and plan for your flight path, you can still get an amazing field of view, an amazing clip of footage in 20 minutes. However long the battery on the drone lasts before it has to settle down and you have to go fetch it, whatever.
Oh yeah, before it drops on somebody's head.
Yeah, before it falls in somebody's yard, and you have to say to jump some fences and.
Yeah.
you know, and you still gotta take those precautions.
Mhm.
Where it's at, and and bring it down before the battery dies or before it hurts somebody.
Yeah, yeah, exactly.
Those precautions.
Yeah, exactly. Speaking of video games and movies, there's a fantastic slew of those this year. But I really fell in love with independent games last year. Mainly because I've got PlayStation Plus, and the membership gives you they've started giving you a couple free games a month for whatever platform you have. And usually they will give you some kind of independent game, and they'll give you some kind of mainstream game. Like the ones this month are the absolutely fantastic, massively underloved Grim Fandango. I'm excited for playing that. It's this old 1998 game that's about Day of the Dead and Grim Reapers that just got re-released, and it's free right now on PlayStation Plus, which I'm overly excited about. And then Dragon Age Origins, which is another fantastic game, but that one wasn't quite as underloved, but it's still a fantastic game. But they have a little bit of everything happening next year. One of my favorite ones that's coming out is called Astroneer. It's basically Minecraft meets The Martian. You have if you've ever seen games like Journey, where you're just kind of wandering around a desolate scape, it's basically an astronaut who's crashed into this planet, and you have to explore the planet, and you have to find parts of your spaceship so you can get off the planet. And but it's like Minecraft in that you can build, disassemble, kind of remix your environment as you go while you build this spacecraft to get off, and other people can join in. I don't know if it's like Journey where they just randomly appear, or if you matchmake like actual multiplayer games or what. But it's one of those experimental indie games, but it's combining a couple of genres into one. It's cartoony, but it's a more realistic Minecraft, and it's I don't know, it looks fun. It's probably one of those games that you can probably beat in 20 minutes, but you can probably waste like a year on it if you really let yourself. Same thing with No Man's Sky. I mean, that's a procedurally generated video game where you fly a spaceship and you can land and explore all these different planets. And they said there are so many planets in this game that it would take you like 1 billion years by yourself to explore every planet in the game. Like there's literally no way you can explore everything in the game, which is fantastic. You just it's open worlds, it's open universe, I guess. But you just endlessly land, explore. It's you have space combat. You have a bunch of things. It's kind of like a more indie Star Citizen, if you will. It's not quite as realistic, but it actually has a release date.
Oh wow.
Yeah, and it's been in development. It's been massively hyped up for the past couple of years, and it finally has a release date this year. And it just looks beautiful every time you see it. Um, and this is the year that games that people thought were never going to get released are going to get released. You have No Man's Land, you have Last Guardian, which has been in development hell for literally 12 years. You have Final Fantasy 15, which has been in development hell for 12 years. I remember pre-ordering that game in like 2008 or whenever they officially announced it as part of the Final Fantasy 13 family of games that they announced. It's been in development for years and years and years, and it's finally getting released. And it's 2016 is the year of things that are in limbo coming out of that, which is fantastic. And they all look absolutely gorgeous, as well as things that no one really anticipated, like Horizon Zero Dawn, the game where you're like a primitive hunter, but you're hunting robotic dinosaurs. If you had pitched that game like 5 years ago, people would have thought you were crazy, especially giving it a female antagonist. And they've not only have they pitched that and got it passed, they're going to release it, I think, this month or next month. It's coming out soon, and it just looks fantastic. It's all the fun. It looks like something like Monster Hunter meets like The Matrix or something. It's like most of the games that I've seen for 2016. It combines genres and stories and goals in a way that you can't really describe. But that's okay because you don't want things to be predictable. If you're all playing the same thing again, like watching the same story, it's a soap opera, right? And that's what every game I've seen this year has been really good about doing. Is kind of subverting those tropes. And then you have Fabulous Creatures coming out, which is a kind of a board game meets a video game in that it has an ecosystem. It's kind of like a chair stacking game. Do you remember those games you used to play as a kid where you stack the chairs or stack the animals and make sure they don't fall over, like a reverse Jenga?
Mm-hmm.
It's like that, except you have this augmented reality. You have this augmented reality segment to it too, where where every piece you have has an RFID chip, and when you put it down, it scans the animal into your iPad. And when you're stacking them, it shows them interacting with each other on your iPad. So you've got to balance the figures physically, and then you've got to balance the ecosystem to make sure the animals don't implode. And then if the tower falls over, of course you're screwed anyway. But it's about to be on Kickstarter. It's weird because they have a teaser website for a Kickstarter. So there is to say there's not enough information to go on to really describe the game is an understatement, because there's literally not enough information on it. But it looks neat because again it kind of subverts those tropes. Everyone's familiar with the stacking games, but this adds another element to it to make it more tense or more fun depending on how badly or well you do with it, I suppose. And just all of those, 2016 again is going to be the year where a lot of genres come together in a lot of unexpected and really creative and exciting ways, and it's really refreshing to see. While EA is kind of pooping on what should be good games, and other companies, it's really refreshing to see the independent developers come out with games that just look really amazing, and hopefully will be when they actually come out. I'm surprised I talked that long without coughing my lungs out.
Well, that sounds pretty cool. I mean, it also sounds kind of like the Skylanders game or the
Yeah,
Star Wars 3.0, it sounds very familiar to that. Uh,
yeah.
it's a
Except you add it to like a party environment. It's made to be a very well. I guess Skylanders and Infinity are in a lot of ways. They're made to be a very kind of social experience where you can interact with these toys and interact with it in a different way. And this one is kind of like Lego Dimensions in that kind of way. It's focused more on the physical interaction than the digital interaction, and it's gonna be exciting to see how they kind of define that mechanic when they actually put it on Kickstarter.
uh, okay, good,
Yeah.
good. Well, that sounds like it's going to be exciting.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Jesse, you've been quiet. What are you looking forward to?
Um, well, oh man. Well, I'm graduating, so I'll be able to have a life in the summer. I plan on catching up on everything I missed in 2015, 14, 13.
What year is it?
Well,
Well,
uh,
awesome. Congratulations.
Yeah,
yeah,
definitely.
I'm really excited about it. So part of me is not so much excited about what's going to happen in 2016 as much as catching up with everything I missed in 2016.
Reclaiming life in 2016
Yeah,
is Jesse's theme.
pretty much. Yeah, it's going to be like Eat, Pray, Love, only it's going to be eat,
Less Julia Roberts.
desperate, video games. So
Right.
it's going to be fun times. I am looking forward to Rogue One. Um, I'm looking forward to people stop. I've been annoyed with just some of the commentary I've been reading about Star Wars, so I'll be happy when.
The spoilers have awoken.
Yeah, I well, see, that's the thing is there are some very legitimate issues with Star Wars. I love the movie, but there are some legitimate issues with Star Wars.
and
But
and
it
you've
seems like
you've seen it twice now, right?
3 times now.
3 times. Okay.
Yeah,
I
once
need
in
to
3D.
catch up.
And the thing about it is, there's some things that should be talked about, but it seems like a lot of people are wasting a lot of their breath on things that don't even matter or are even a
TR,
thing.
AR.
Oh my gosh. Well, not even that. The posts going around about how Kylo Ren is so wimpy, how he got beat by 2 people at the end of the movie.
I liked
And
Have you seen the counterpoint to that one?
oh yeah. Oh, it's complete bollocks. I mean, he
Yeah.
did take a shot from Chewie, and
Yeah.
oh my gosh, there was
That
just
was
so
my
much.
favorite
Did you
rebuttal.
watch
It's like
it?
we've defined. It's like they defined several times during the movie that Chewbacca's bowcaster is absolutely lethal. He takes a shot from it and then goes and has a lightsaber fight. Tell me again how he's wimpy.
Exactly. So
What?
that bothered me. Oh, was it?
Oh.
Oh, no, I was
Oh,
going to
okay.
say, I actually think he barely got beat once, and that was by Ray.
Yes.
But
Yeah,
the fight with Finn, I think he had a good fight with Finn, but he took out Finn like
pretty easy.
Yeah.
pretty easy. And with Ray, it was almost even.
Yeah.
Ray wasn't fluent with the
Hmm.
Force, but still gave him a good fight. So I really don't think
Yeah.
he was beaten by 2 people. Maybe half a person. At least a half a person.
Kylo had a handicap going into it via Chewbacca's rifle.
Yeah,
Yeah.
But there again, this is a guy who, in the beginning of the movie, held a heavy blaster bolt for like 5 minutes and held a casual conversation with everybody,
yeah.
and like it was nothing. And people just forget that based on maybe a couple minutes of very emotional dialogue.
It
Yeah.
was just that really annoyed me, and then of
Yeah.
course the people attacking Ray. Um,
Oh, the whole Mary Sue comments.
oh
Yeah.
my gosh, and it's one of those things where, like I said, there are very legitimate plot holes and issues with the movie that should be
Hmm.
addressed, especially going into 8. But Ray being a girl and Kylo Ren being wimpy is not the things to be focused, because there's absolutely no basis for either of those statements.
I would every time someone has those comments, which I thought have been very cool, very very well handled in a spoiler group I'm in, as well as the replica prop forum. We're really quick to pass them on to the Force Awakens visual dictionary, which has been handy. That's one of the things I'm trying to get into this year. Is UAB now has a 3D print lab, so I've been investigating prop making techniques, and the
Hmm.
visual dictionary has been for Star Wars or Star Trek. You can find blueprints for almost anything you can dream of. You can go to Thingiverse and find digital schematics for almost anything you can dream of. But the visual dictionary is great for having reference photos for everything in Force Awakens, but also pick it up for the lore. And one of the things the lore is very big on saying, which some of it's kind of cheesy. My favorite thing on the Kylo Ren pages is they actually have something pointing to an accusing finger he has to assert his authority. I'm like, you didn't want to waste that negative space, did you? Um, but it does that, as well as the incredible cross sections book for Force Awakens are very very keen on explaining some things that we extrapolated in our spoiler cast about Rey being able to take apart and figure out things very quickly because she's done that her entire life. They mention in like the cross section book that she like built her own speeder. That thing you see, she found junk and built that. And Kylo Ren is very steeped in Force technique, very steeped in the Force history. Just all this kind of world building that people are complaining is not there, or is either there and they don't explain why because they need to be hand fed, I guess. Um,
And that's exactly it. Oh my God.
those two books, go spend $20 on them, and it explains everything that you possibly might call a plot hole.
Yeah. Well, see that's basically what it boiled down to, was the movie. And I'm happy about this, because critical thinking skills is something we need in this society.
Yes.
But it was one of those things where I felt like people were whining about things because they didn't like the movie.
Hmm.
For what
Well, you see the Huffington Post article especially, and that thing was just like, did you watch the movie or did you just
Oh
look
my,
for things to complain about?
oh one of my friends, Joe Wood, he actually responded to that article, and he wrote, "I see plot holes in your plot holes."
He should have just sent him a photo of Swiss cheese.
Yeah, there
It
you
was it was ridiculous. It was like they explained how oh, I forget the name of them. It's not Rancor, the monsters on the freight.
Oh yeah, yeah, yeah.
They show how they got out, and that was one of the plot holes, was how did those things get out? And I'm like, did,
My
she,
favorite one is when people are seriously asking if Snoke is a giant. It's like, did you
oh,
miss the part where he flickered and went out? AKA the obvious hologram.
yeah. And
Apparently you did, because you're asking it right now.
obvious how those
Yeah.
got out. It's only obvious that Snoke was a hologram. I
Maybe
mean,
they went. Maybe they kept going to the bathroom during these scenes.
probably.
That's why it didn't make sense, man. You just got an overactive bladder, is what it is.
but it's one of there's been a couple articles that have like
Perfect.
seriously, broken down the issues of the movie, and but really, I think people are just upset because it wasn't the movie they wanted, and so they're trying to find any reason they can to unhinge it, I guess you could say.
But people are really quick to forget. Are really quick to forget that because there has been a number of people that are like, well, it would have been better if Lucas directed it. Well, if Lucas had directed it, you would have never gotten a sequel. He has been very open for the past decade or so after the prequels. He's been very clear that he had no intention of ever continuing the story. Um, So, and then you have the ones, of course, who are spoiling and protesting the expanded universe. But if you ask those people what kind of movie they want, I don't think they have an answer. It's like Terminator Genesis basically answered every fan service thing people had ever wanted, and it was a terrible movie. If we gave you the movie you said you were going to want, it would have been awful.
Exactly. And that's exactly how I feel about the situation. Was JJ had a
Not that the
horrible.
expanded universe was awful until you get to the space werewolves. I'm just saying if you had put in every fan service request.
Yeah, it's
Let's
just.
to be clear before the trolls take over.
Well, and we had the discussion about how he couldn't have done anything new. I mean, there was no way that J.J. Abrams could have made the movie if he kept the extended universe.
Mm-hmm.
And I actually think J.J. Abrams was very kind in that regard because,
Mm-hmm.
kind of like what you mentioned before, there are a lot of nice kind of nods to the EU, just both in characters and storyline. And really, not saying they should be happy about that, but really, he was being awful nice for that.
He incorporated as much as he could without explicitly dropping Mara Jade somewhere in there.
Exactly, exactly. And that's just like the guy who was sitting next to me when Harrison Ford shouted out Ben. Um, he just flipped a gasket. And I was like, you were never going to make that person happy, no matter
Yeah.
how much you tried, unless it was a recreation, shot by shot, of the Thrawn trilogy. You were not going to make that person happy. So I think J.J. Abrams struck a very nice balance.
Mm-hmm.
I've had many friends who don't like Star Wars like this movie.
Mm-hmm.
So,
Well,
yeah.
you know, there isn't going to be anybody that's going to be happy. You know, I mean, there's articles where I read that at first George Lucas liked the movie, and then next thing
Oh, Lucas.
he didn't like the movie because it didn't follow the story that he wrote. You know, Disney didn't use anything
Well,
he wrote.
there's a difference between not liking your movie, between not liking how they handled your movie, and saying that that it felt like you sold your children to white slavers,
Oh, God.
which is the worst comparison you can ever say about anything. Um, Lucas has been very, and of course I posted the quote. Pardon me. Man, I'm going to do some editing. But he did. But there was that quote I shared on Facebook and Twitter earlier where Lucas said that it was largely about that it's a space opera, and what that means is it's a soap opera about family relationships, which basically he wanted to do a movie that was that and not necessarily make a movie for the fans, and that's what Lucasfilm and Abrams wanted to do, was make a film that honored the fans and was different than Lucas's initial treatment. Basically, he is salty that he has these story treatments that are ostensibly 20 to 30 years old that Lucasfilm looked at, kindly considered, and said they were going a different way with. And he's been very, very salty about that as of late. And I think that's very petty from him, especially when he's seen on like a literal pile of money from that sale.
Oh, yeah. Well, he donated.
And potentially more from the profits of the movie.
Yeah, he donated almost all the proceeds to charity. So I will, not that I'm defending George on this, but I believe he donated wasn't it 4 billion,
Something.
something like that. That all went to charity.
But if they didn't make an awesome movie and people hadn't paid money for it, he wouldn't have that money to give.
Right.
So I don't know.
Yeah.
I don't know. It's George
He was very
Lucas.
bitter. And he was almost exactly like the guy I was sitting next to in the theater. It was
Yeah.
like, I think he's more angry at the fact that it's doing so well.
Maybe he's mad that it's one upping episode 1.
I think he's upset that he really wanted, and from a creative point of view, I mean, it's one of those things. He put his heart and soul into 6 movies.
Well,
It,
4. and a
Well,
half.
okay, so but still, he put himself into these movies, and then he sold them off, and everybody was like so relieved, and that had to have been an emotional blow for that. And
Yeah.
then to have this movie turn out so well, I think he's just kind of
Blowing off steam.
Well, I think it's the way they're also saying it too, because people are reading too deeply into certain things, like the first lines of episode 7, where Max von Sydow's character, who is also, by the way, spelled out in the visual dictionary. Go and buy it, kids. It's fantastic. Mine's coming in. Mine's dropping in the mail tomorrow. Um, but the literal first lines after the crawl of episode 7 is hopefully this will begin to put things right, or something to that effect. And a lot of people are reading way too deeply into it, just like the Plagueis theory, which we'll get to in a second. People are saying that is a slight against the prequels, that this is Lucasfilm's way of saying we're going to make the prequels right, or something like that. And I think the vitriol that the people are doing, they're like, this is the best Star Wars movie since Return of the Jedi. This proves Lucas doesn't know what the hell he's doing. Da 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 da. I think Lucas is seeing all these headlines that are pooping on him, and I think that's outwardly reflecting on his opinion of the movie. He's like,
yeah,
well, fuck you guys too, because I think anybody who has that level of animosity toward anything, if you're expected to speak publicly about that and they're pooping on you, I think a lot of people aren't going to be as controlled as people would like to be. And Lucas is obviously in that camp too, because I mean, let's be honest, who would not be?
Yeah, I mean, a lot of this flack that he's getting for the prequels, him being lousy or bad or whatever, that's why he I can't say really gave up on making the movies. He
It's
started.
obvious he phoned in certain parts, but as a whole, they're not necessarily bad, but parts of them are.
Well, yeah, in a sense, I mean,
That's my opinion, though. So
yeah, I love the prequels. I liked it, all three of them.
yeah.
Uh, and,
I think
and
people hate it. I think people hate the wrong parts of it, because people, when they poop on the prequels, they always poop on Jar Jar Binks. Um, I think I think what they should focus on is how wooden of a dialogue. Episode 2 to me is the weak point of the prequels.
I agree.
Um, it wasn't necessarily that it was written badly. It was just directed and acted in such a way to make certain parts of it unbearable because they were cheesy and wooden.
right,
Kind of like the first season of Star Trek: The Next Generation. Everything was kind of wooden and it felt very strange. But episode 1 and episode 3, in a lot of ways, are fantastic.
right.
Episode 2 to me was the one that should be axed.
I think the acting part I agree on with
Jango
you.
Fett, though, was amazing.
Yeah, but story wise, I really enjoyed it. It made a lot of sense as to where Darth Vader came from. And
Yeah, and it does set the tone.
right,
You, you
and
do
then
you do get a feeling of where this is headed.
yeah, and then George Lucas did say that Episode 2 was mostly supposed to be a love story between
Hmm.
Anakin and Padme.
Yeah.
And I could see that.
Yeah.
You know, but as far as acting wise, I can see where you're coming from. Yeah, it could have been done a little bit better.
Yeah.
Um,
And then there were the people who always expected, because you see him as like what, an 8-year-old, 10-year-old in episode 1. There were a lot of people who expected Anakin to be this like monster, like out of the gate. Like,
yeah,
I think some people expected him to like massacre Tusken Raider villages in episode 1 or something. And obviously, to get exception of the Jedi, you wouldn't do that. Like,
right.
you have to spell it out. But anyway, we've exposited on that to infinity in the spoiler cast.
Yeah.
Go and listen to it. It's great. We might be biased on that part. But yeah, people were reading so deeply into episode 7. Have you heard the whole Plagueis and Snoke? Ugh. Have you heard the theory about Supreme Leader Snoke being Darth Plagueis?
Yeah.
Yes.
Have you heard how they're coming to that conclusion?
Some. I kind of like.
They're comparing, basically they're overlaying the theme that plays when Palpatine tells Anakin about Plagueis, and the theme that plays when they're in the Snoke hologram cavern. in episode 7, and they're overlaying them, and they're like, this sounds similar. So it's actually kind of trippy when they overlay, because it sounds like some kind of deep sea recording when you hear a sea monster or something.
Oh
It's
yeah,
really weird, really weird and trippy to hear. But according to them, because the sound sounds similar, therefore it means that they're the same character.
yeah, yeah. They use the same soundtrack for for the opera and for Plagueis.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. Which I've got a few issues with that theory. First of all, they're both gigantically dialogue heavy sections. You can't have roaring John Williams orchestrated awesomeness when people are talking. It just doesn't happen like that. A good comparison to that is Dark Knight Rises, especially and especially Bane's themes, because Bane is very monologue driven, but he's also a very active evil character. And you hear, of course, everyone hears the theme where it's got the chorus, but when you hear Bane talking, it's very, very monologue driven. You hear little bass beats. And then when he's being active, you hear the chorus come up, and the volume goes up to 11. Dialogue reduces the amount of music you can use, because otherwise it just gets distracting and stupid.
And disorienting, yeah.
Disorienting, exactly.
For someone like me, it can be disorienting. You have to be really careful.
Yeah, and just like designing a body of work, composers, especially across a 7-movie suite, I'm sure you could find themes from the original 3 that sound like Snoke in a lot of ways. John Williams experimented with adding more orchestra to the original prequels, but you're very limited when you have to be very muted. And I don't think a lot of people realize that, because they're not exactly the same track, but it is similar. It is very, very similar, but I think they're reading it out of context. You know what I mean?
Yes. Oh, I think, but that's it. It kind of goes back to what I was mentioning earlier. Is I'm looking forward to people stop dissecting this movie so much, because I feel like it's getting like they're reading. We don't do this with anything else, like the Ray comments.
Well, maybe Star Trek.
Well, maybe Star Trek, but the thing about it is the fact that we're getting way too... You could do this to anything. You could do this to Avengers. You could talk about how an absolutely, superficial and weak character Thor is.
Because it's true? But he's hilarious.
But he's hilarious. That's the thing, is we don't do this unless you get into some geek pod. You don't do this with any other movie. I think everybody right now is being too hypercritical, and they're looking for these damning pieces that will bring this movie down. And I think it just boils down to people didn't like the movie, but everyone else did, and so they're trying to tear it down.
And even things like this, I don't think it's really tearing there's like two different camps. There's like people who are tearing the movie down, saying that like Rey is like this Jesus Christ Mary Sue figure.
Oh God.
And not really thinking about the context of like why she has these abilities. And then you have the people that are desperate for any kind of information, any kind of clue that will link into the cinematic universe, that will link into the expanded universe even, that will give them any kind of information for Rogue One and especially Episode 8 and 9, that they're willing to literally get the soundtrack, compare it side by side to every other piece of Star Wars music that they've ever heard, and then, compare it and draw conclusions from it. There are people on the Star Wars spoiler group that I'm on who are saying that like definitive evidence that Rey is Luke's kid or Rey is Obi-Wan's kid can be found from the theme that plays when she meets Luke. Apparently there's a bit of Darth Vader's theme that plays in there, according to what they've found from listening to the soundtrack. Never mind that, again, it's supposed to be a cohesive space opera soundtrack. Across 7 movies, things are going to get a little repeated. I mean, it's Luke Skywalker. I mean, we don't know what the hell he's doing. It could reflect the mindset Luke is having, disapproving of Rey being there. I mean, we don't know, but they're reading into it and drawing their own conclusions. But the problem with that is when they postulate that it's ironclad evidence, that there's no debate and nothing that will contradict that evidence, because that sets you up for disappointment, right? Because even when you see that, Abrams could come out tomorrow and say Snoke is Jar Jar Binks with, I don't know, a skin problem, and people would be like, well, it sounds like Plagueis, so it's got to be Plagueis. You're wrong, J.J. Abrams.
Well, you know what? All this hype, it really makes it exciting and makes us curious as to what's going to happen in the next one. You know,
Oh yeah.
I'm, I'm
Yeah, because it is anybody's guess. There is absolutely no clue as to anything that's going to happen going forward.
right, right. You know, there's going to be so many questions that are going to come out, and it's just going to make us anticipate and ready for the next Star Wars movie. And who knows? Maybe even this next Star Wars movie will beat this Star Wars movie out. You know, out of number one spot. You know,
I'm
I
not
hope
sure.
so.
you never
I
know.
I hope so, but I wouldn't be surprised if it didn't. I think there is a lot of novelty to this movie that I don't know, especially considering the director is from Looper. Um, I feel I will be surprised if the next one surpass. Not saying it's not going to be a better movie. I'm just saying that I don't know if people are going to be watching it over and over again like they are.
Yeah, Force Awakens has a ton of momentum because it is, of course, setting the stage for everything else. That alone carries. I mean, you look at the amount of money Phantom Menace made, and then everything else that came from it. Regardless of if it's a good movie, bad movie, whatever. Um, and that makes a lot of difference. I think Rogue One is going to be a good barometer for how people are going to react to Episode 8 because it is kind of the besides Rebels and Battlefront and outline media, there was nothing to kind of trade headwind for Force Awakens. It was coming out for 3 years of anticipation, and now we're going to follow this formula where we're a year or less is going to be the standard wait time between episodes or anthology films. So I think Rogue One and how people react to this is going to be a good barometer for how people react to Star Wars movies for the foreseeable future because that's more falling in line with the movie cadence they have going for the foreseeable future.
Oh yeah, I like to see what kind of things they're
Ooh,
gonna come
sorry.
out with Rogue One. I want to see the battle between as far as the rebels getting the plans for the Death Star.
Oh yeah, definitely.
Interesting.
And just the
Uh,
cast of characters and the fact you have Gareth Edwards directing it. I mean, you have everything going for it. But even if it's critically acclaimed, even if it looks good, if people are, and of course this is going to be at the end of the year, we have a massive, massive, massive amount of movies ahead of it. Of course, 2015 was like that too. You had a lot of movies. Like, a few of them were obscure, but you had tons of great movies. You had Ex Machina. You had Marvel. You had Mad
Inside
Max.
Out.
Yeah, Inside Out. You had tons and tons of movies, and 2016 looks like it's going to be even more. So I think in so many ways it's going to be a good barometer doing that because you have a lot of people who are gunning for the same target audience releasing movies this year, and I don't know, it's going to be a good barometer for several metrics.
yeah.
Metrics
Eh,
for several. It's going to be a good barometer for the movie climate, as it were.
Right. And I don't think Rogue One will be spectacular as Force Awakens, but I'm hoping that it'll be good enough to do well in the theater,
Yeah.
and good enough story to, uh,
Yeah. Well,
and
it suffers from the classic prequel dilemma in that you already know what's going to happen,
well,
but they have an opportunity to tell it in an interesting way.
right, right, and I mean, I hope it doesn't suffer too much from the prequel dilemma, but
Yeah.
I hope they uh, do a good enough story to where it can still be enjoyable to watch and to kick back and say, oh, hey, that's what happened. Okay,
Yeah.
you know,
Exactly.
and
Exactly.
the whole story in theory or whatever comes about it.
Yeah. Exactly. Yeah. Leaping back to the Snoke and Plagueis thing. my biggest reason that it's not Plagueis is if it was Plagueis, you'd think he'd tell Kylo Ren to make a better lightsaber. Which, by the way, which going back to the visual dictionary, I know we're backtracking through the podcast again. Actually, does a really good job of explaining why Kylo Ren needed the side vents for his lightsaber. Um, for one, yes, it is built really shittily, but he also has a cracked kyber crystal in the hilt, and basically to keep the lightsaber from exploding, he built the side vents in there. So
Um,
so there you go. But it does explicitly mention like which probably would surprise no one. It does explicitly mention in the visual dictionary that it was built by an unskilled hand.
I I'm gonna have to buy this visual
It's
dictionary.
fantastic. It's the best $15 I've spent in a long time, I think.
well,
What the thing about it is, people argue, well, it should have been in the movie. No, no, it does not need to be in the movie. We do not need to spoon feed all
That's
the.
what kills movies for me. And like we mentioned in the spoiler cast, they do a solid bit of that in it, and I think the movie kind of suffers for it. In a lot of ways because you see because they have certain moments that they could have spun just like they did in Empire Strikes Back, but no, and within the first 20 minutes they're like, let's drop this bombshell.
well, I understand where you're coming from with a shitty lightsaber thing, but I like they the way Kylo Ren used it on Finn when
Yes,
he forced it into his shoulder and stuff. Which makes sense because I mean that's an extra weapon on the side, that he can use
exactly,
and
exactly.
just pop out there when he needs it to cheat in a fight, which is
Yeah.
typical of the dark side.
And it makes tactical sense too, because if you think about how everyone fights with those, and they're always locking lightsabers, a cross guard gives you a little bit of an advantage in that fight because it gives you an extra bit of leverage to push back with. And I
Right.
mean, it makes tactical sense. I just think it's interesting to actually have a reason. That's because it's not only is it badly built, but he has an engineering reason for it in that he doesn't want it to blow up because in the expanded universe, and again, it's up for grabs in the cinematic universe. If you built your lightsaber badly, it becomes like a pipe bomb, and when you ignite the lightsaber, it'll explode.
Yeah.
Um,
That
which
makes
apparently is true for the cinematic universe too, because he needs to vent it so it doesn't do that.
Yeah. Yeah. That does make sense right there too, you know. Um but yeah, I mean, it's either way. It can go either way.
Definitely, definitely.
Yeah.
But yeah, this is the first time I've been interested in visual dictionary, and I kind of want to pick it up for and looking through Thingiverse and seeing all the digital prop models they have. I really want to see. I really want to get some for like Star Wars, Star Trek, and everything. Just kind of read through it and get a feel for the lore of everything because I think it's fantastic, kind of filling in the backstory for things. But yeah, anytime I see a detractor, I like the replica prop form. I just kind of want to mail them a copy of it and be like, read this, and then we'll talk. Oh, cool! It has. Well, cool. It's been a productive first podcast of 2016. Plenty of stuff to look forward to. Of course, we'll be here. Hopefully, doing more. Hopefully, we'll get some more hosts. We'll get some more podcasts, more topics. If anyone's got any ideas, any suggestions, like, comment, subscribe, tell your friends. Don't do drugs. Do your homework, and we'll see you guys next week.
Bye.
Bye.